Hey guys, I just completed the Grandview Garden series. Now I'm gonna open a new one. The culture and history in China. So the topic for today is Chris Christianity reached China before modern West did. The forgotten course of Tang Dynasty Chang'an. Most people think Christianity come to China with modern Western missionary ships, colonialism, opium wars, men in black robes arriving from Europe and telling China about a god it had never heard of. But the story is too late. Because more than 1,000 years before opium wars, before modern Europe became the global power we imagine today, before America even existed as an idea, a Christian monk arrived in the capital of Chang'an. His name was Alopen. The year was 635. The city was Chang'an, one of the most cosmopolitan city on earth. So the question is, if Christianity reached China so early, why did it almost disappear? Why did Buddhism become Chinese while early Christianity remain almost like a ghost in the archive? And what does this forgotten story tell us about faith, empire, translation, and limits of cultural exchange? It's a story about what happened when a universal God walks into a civilization that already has its own sacred order. So, first, Christianity in China is not just a modern story. It's not only about Jesuits in the Ming Dynasty, about Protestant missionary in the 19th century, not only about Western imperialism. The first well-documented arrival of Christianity in China goes back to Tang Dynasty. It's a stone. Not a legend, not a rumor, but a stone. A massive monument known as the Xi'an Stela, or the Nestorian Stela, erected in 781. It was written in Chinese and Syriac, and it recorded the presence of Christian community in Tang, China. To understand this story, you have to forget the image of Asian China as closed, isolated, and allergic to foreigners. Chang'an was not a little capital politely drinking tea behind a wall. Chang'an was enormous, international, noisy, rich, and strange. Persian merchants, Central Asian dancers, Buddhist monks, Taoist priests, Sadian traders, diplomats, translators, caravans, music, silk, horses, foreign clothes. If New York, Rome, and a giant poetry festival had a child and then gave the child better ceramics, you might get something like Chang'an. This was not a city afraid of the outside world. It's a city where the outside world arrived every day. So when Alopen came from the Church of the East, bringing sacred text and image, he was not entering a sealed civilization. He was entering one of the great crossroads of Eurasia. The real mystery is not how could Christianity reach China. The real mystery is how could it reach China so early and still fail to become deeply Chinese. So the clarification is the Christianity arrived in Tang Dynasty was not Roman Catholicism. It was not Protestantism. This category would come later. It was the Church of the East, called Nestorian Christianity. Even the word Nestorian is complicated. It was partly a label given by other Christians who considered them less orthodox. For this video, the important thing is not to get lost in theological family drama. Christianity and family drama long before Twitter. The thing is, these are serious speaking Christian from Eastern Christian world. Their Christianity had moved across Persia and Central Asia. It traveled not by Netflix documentary, not by TikTok theology, but through the Sikh road. By the time it reached China, Christianity was already not just European. Christianity reached China through Asia, through Syria, Persia, Central Asia. The idea that Christianity equals the West is already too simple. In this story, it's not arriving as modern Western power, it's arriving as Asian religion moving across Asia. According to the Stela, the Tang court did not immediately reject Alopen. Instead, his texts were examined, teaching translated, and religion allowed to exist. This is fascinating because the first imperial response was not burning, banning, arrested for a monk. The response is what it is translated. Can it fit into our words? That's the key. In China, foreign ideas did not simply enter. They had to be translated, and translation doesn't only mean language. It means metaphysics, social meaning, political safety. It means what do you call God in Chinese? What do you call Christ? Is heaven the same as God? Is it Tao like the Logos? Is salvation a personal relationship with God, or can it be explained through moral cultivation? Each translation is a choice, and each choice changes something. That's why culture exchange is never innocent. It's not just two civilization politely exchanging business card. It's two giant systems trying to digest each other without being swallowed. So the deeper thing is, Tang China could tolerate many religions, but tolerance did not mean equality in modern sense. The empire was not saying all beliefs are equally true. The empire was saying different beliefs may exist as long as they don't threaten imperial order. This is very different. A Chinese emperor could sponsor Buddhism, use Taoism, welcome foreign monks, allow temples, employ translator, but the empire still had one sacred center, the throne. The emperor was not just a politician. He was the son of heaven. He performed rituals. He maintained cosmic order. He was a hinge between heaven, earth, ancestors, and a state. So when a face arrives and says there's one ultimate God above all rulers, that becomes interesting. Not immediately impossible, but definitely interesting. The question is not do you believe in God? The question is where does final authority live? In heaven, emperor, church, family, ancestors, the state? That's a real collision. Not east versus west, not China versus Christianity, but two different maps of sacred authority. Now compare this with Buddhism. Buddhism comes from outside China. It was foreign too. It has strange words, robes, strange ideas like karma, rebirth, monastic life, and living in family. And first, society built around family duty. A monk living home was not exactly the most confusing career choice. Imagine telling your parents, I have decided to abandon marriage, shave my head, and pursue enlightenment. In many families, the conversation would not go well, but Buddhism survived. Because Buddhism translated itself deeply into Chinese civilization, it built monasteries, it created rituals for ancestors and the dead, it offered merry making, it entered art, poetry, philosophy, funeral, festival, and local community. It did not remain only a foreign idea at core. It became social, it became domestic, it became useful to family. It became emotionally valuable. In other words, Buddhism didn't just arrive in China. It learned how to live there. Early Christianity in China seemed to have also had imperial recognition, community tax monument, but it remain appear to have remained more fragile. Not because Chinese people are uniquely hostile to Christianity. The better explanation is early Christianity in China depended heavily on foreign networks, core production, and urban communities connected to the Silk Road. It's powerful when the empire is open and dangerous when politics change. A religion protected mainly by elites can disappear when those elites disappear. A religion tied too closely to foreign community can become vulnerable when the empire turns suspicious of foreign influence. And a faith that can never fully become part of ordinary family life may leave monuments but not deep roots. That's the difference between arrival and belonging. Arrival is when a religion enters a country. Belonging is when people begin to imagine their lives through it. Christianity arrived, but it did not fully belong. Then comes the crisis. In the 840s, Emperor Wuzhong launched a major persecution of Buddhism known as Huichang persecution. The target was mainly Buddhism, but other religions also affected, including the Church of the East. This is where we should be careful. The emperor did not wake up one morning and say, I have read comparative theology and disagree with Buddhist metaphysics. Religion had become a political and economic issue. Temples owned land, monks and nuns were outside, no more taxation and labor obligation. The state needed resources, the court wanted control, and suddenly theology became real estate. This happened in many civilizations. In Europe, kings fought the church over land and authority. In England, Henry, I don't know, 6 or 7 dissolved monasteries. In revolutionary France, church property became political property. So when China cracked down on Buddhist institutions, this is not only about belief. It's about power, land, taxes, labor, control. And our early Christianity, fragile, was caught in a storm. One of the great lessons of history is religion may speak of heaven, but it still has to survive on earth. So return to the storm. The Nestorian stela is so powerful because it feels like a messaging from an alternate history. It tells us there was once Christian community in town China. It had text, Chinese language, imperial recognition, enough confidence to carve its memory into stone, but for centuries it was almost forgotten. The stone is not only evidence, it's a ghost. It says this happened, it could become something larger, but it didn't. It's a monument to presence and absence at the same time. That's why the story matters. It reminds us that history is not inevitable. It's not inevitable. Religion doesn't spread simply because they are true to their believer. They spread when institution, language, politics, trade roles, ritual, and historical lock align. Faith needs belief, and it also needs translation, protection, community, and ordinary people to carry into kitchen, funeral, marriage, lullabies, and family memory. Without that, a face with a stone monument can become a forgotten chapter. So for you, the story is important because it breaks a modern assumption. Christianity equals the West, but early Christianity was not only Europe. For centuries, some of the most important Christian communities were in Syria, Persia, Central Asia, India, and along the Silk Road. Christianity moved east long before modern West empires moved east. So when Christianity reached town, it was not simply Europe knocking on China's door. It was Asia speaking to Asia. This is not the story of gunboats and unequal treaties. It was a story of monks, merchants, manuscripts, translators, and empire. It's not coloni- colonial colonialism. It was contact. Context more complicated than conquest. So why did Christianity disappear from town? Not because it is closed. Town China was open. Not because China has no religion. China has had many forms of sacred order. Not because Christianity had no message. It has a powerful universal message. The problem was deeper. Christianity arrived in a civilization where belief was never just private. Religion touched the state, the family, ancestor, empire, calendar, ritual, meaning of order itself. To survive, a foreign faith had to become Chinese without losing itself. Buddhism managed that transformation over centuries. Early Christianity did not, at least not yet. And that's the tragedy and fascination of the story. The cross reached China, but arrival is not thing as belonging. 1,000 years later, Christianity would return to China in new forms with maps, astronomy, clocks, science, hospital, and schools. And again, the question returned: can a universal faith enter China without being swallowed by Chinese order? Can China accept the God above the emperor? Can civilization built around ancestor understand a faith built around salvation? This is the story of the series, Faith and Empire. China and the world, not as a simple battle between East and West, but as a long, strange, sometimes beautiful, sometimes tragic conversation about the deepest human question: who are we? What do we worship? What do we obey? And what happens when the answer to those questions arrive from somewhere far away? The first cross did not come with modern Western power. It came on secret, enter Chang'an, translated and welcomed. It was carved into stone, and it nearly disappeared. History not just what survives. Sometimes history is what almost becomes the future. Yeah, that's the first episode. Um, I hope you enjoy it, and let me know if you have any question, and I will see you in the following episodes. Thank you.